Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to the Master Your Mindset podcast. I'm excited to be presenting to you another solo episode this week. I have really enjoyed these solo conversations, and I really have an important topic to be speaking about today. And this topic was sparked by a recent masterclass that we signed up to, or that we have been watching, Nate and I, in the last couple of days. So this masterclass was from Robin Roberts. I'm not talking about a masterclass from a coach that, advertises and you pay for it and whatnot. I'm talking about the actual subscription masterclass on TV, on the internet that you can have. Masterclass is like our Netflix. We don't have Netflix. We watch masterclass because, as we probably know, my core value, one of them is learning. And I just love learning so many different things that's not even around coaching, personal development. Whilst I like learning about that, I also like learning about random things like astrophysics, space, like all of these things that I've actually had the opportunity to watch on Masterclass. So that was like a little bit of a plug for them, which is not sponsored or anything. But if you love learning, or if you want to expand your mind, open your mind up, I would quit the Netflix, get on to the Masterclass subscription. But anyway, we started watching the masterclass that Robin Roberts has. Now, I didn't even know who Robin Roberts was before we started watching this. And I freaking want to take her out to dinner and hear all her stories, because this woman is phenomenal and we are only on class 3. So Robin Roberts talks about effective and authentic communication. And that is not what I'm going to be talking to you about today. But in class 1, it sparked something really, really important. And I really want to share with you today. And that is that I don't think we actually understand how impactful the projections that we are projecting onto others is affecting our life, is affecting our relationships, is affecting so many areas within our life just in general. Right? So when we are projecting onto others, we are projecting things like our beliefs, our fears. We're projecting things like our negative stories in our own mind, where the negative thought patterns, we're projecting all of these things. And whilst I say negative, it's because I'm going to be talking about the negative things and how impactful that is in a bad way. Rather than, it can actually be positive things. We will be projecting positive things, but I'm going to be talking about the negative. So we are projecting negative thoughts, negative patterns, negative beliefs, negative self-talk, whatever it is, we are projecting that onto others through our mood, our energy, our behaviors, our language, our conversations that we are having with them. And these people can feel it, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. But these are actually impacting us more than we even realize, and it's not for the better. So I'm going to talk about projections and the impact that they have through Robin Roberts' story that she also shared. So Robin Roberts is an African-American woman who is a journalist, TV presenter, sports presenter, news presenter for all things like ESPN, Good Morning America. I'm not so familiar with all of that on the America side, but that is who she is. And she has actually become really famous for so many different reasons. So the one specific thing that I want to talk about, and the one story of hers that I want to talk about, is when she was starting out, she was seeking a job as a sports presenter. This was her passion. She really, really, truly wanted this, and she truly believed that she had an important message to bring out with this, and she had a lot to say, and that she was going to be so good at this job. But she also knew, coming out of college, that she was on the lower hand of opportunities because she was an African-American woman, right? And so what she did, instead of using this as ammunition for bad and going and protesting, and she actually used this thing as her drive, as her motivator, because she knew she wanted this job so bad that she used that as her drive to actually go into those interviews and make it known that she is the best person for this job. So she could have gone into those interviews and she could have projected her hate, her anger, her whatever she's feeling, the fears that she has around this. Maybe she had lower confidence because she knew that she was an African-American woman with less possibility of getting this job than your average white person. I'm not wanting to speak about racism here or equality or anything like that, but this is just the story so that you can understand. So she went into those interviews projecting on her confidence. She made it an entire vibe before she went into those interviews, and she knew she was going in there confident, and she was going to show them through her body language, through her energy, through her knowledge, through her, conversations, that she was the best person for this job. She used this one thing that a lot of people usually use to get themselves into lack mindset, into victim mentality. She used this exact thing for good, for a positive outcome for her. Let me tell you, she got the job. She got that job because she went in there and she showed them and she projected her confidence onto them. And people like that. So a lot of people would go in and use this exact thing, like, I'm African-American and I have less possibility of getting this job. They could go in there and without even saying anything in their language, they could project that onto them by using their body language, by their energy. And people literally can see that. The people on the other side, the person who is interviewing will be able to see that and be able to feel that. And they'll be like, okay, well, you're not confident. We need someone that's confident in this job, whatever it is that their requirements are. So therefore, these people will go into that interview, not get the job as a result of their projections and their low confidence and whatever else they're telling themselves in their minds, because that is what they're projecting onto the person. They will not get this job. And then they will say, there is the evidence, because that is what we are looking for. We are seeking evidence to make it true, make our beliefs true. My belief is that I'm not going to get this job because I'm African-American. And then they don't get the job. And then they're like, tick, it's true. My belief is true. Right? Whereas if you were to go in there and you were to challenge that belief that you were feeling, like Robin Roberts did. So she used this as ammunition to go in there with fire, to go in there with confidence, so that she could challenge that belief, so that she could find the evidence that that belief is not true. Therefore, she can rewrite that belief and she can use it for the better. Because we are going to get nowhere if we continue to believe these thoughts and beliefs and stories and continue to find evidence for them to be true. Because for as long as we are finding evidence for them to be true, they are going to be true. And you are going to stay stuck in life. Now, Robin Roberts knew what is in her control. She knew that she can't, no amount of protesting that she would go out and do is going to change anything in those people's minds. If anything, she's going to be seen, but they're probably going to not like her. They're probably going to hate her even more, right? So she used that and she looked at what was in her control. What is in her control is the way that she can project herself onto others and the way that she can use that to rise. Right? Because this is in her control. She can use this to make her way, go up that ladder, go up the hierarchy. You should see where she is now. She is famous. She is famous now in America. And everyone wants to talk to her. Me, I want to invite her to dinner so I can listen to the rest of her stories because she is an incredible human being. So this actually reminds me of a reel that Nate sent to me a few days ago. And I found this reel eye-opening. So there was this study being done where they were going to send in a certain number of females into a job interview. But before, they wanted to draw scars. They had the makeup artists drawing scars on their face, right? So they drew scars on their face before they went into this job interview. And these women looked at themselves just before they went into the interview with these scars on their face, saying whatever thoughts they were saying into their mind, whatever beliefs, whatever negative stories they're going to project onto this interviewer. So they looked at their scars. And just before they stepped into that interview, the makeup artists say, I just want to touch up your scars. What they did without these women knowing was they rubbed off their scars completely. So these women were actually going into this interview looking like their normal selves, but they didn't know this. They thought they were touching up their scars, but they actually rubbed their scars off. majority of those women came out saying there were hateful comments that came towards their appearance, that they were looking at them weirdly, that they thought they were judging them, all of these things. These women did not have scars on their face. They looked normal. But they went in with these thoughts, stories, I'm going to be judged. They aren't going to give me this job because I have facial disfiguration. All of these things, right? And they were searching for the evidence, right? And that came as, the comments that people made, the judgments that they had, the body language, the way that they presented to them gave them evidence that all of these beliefs were true, when really it was actually just them projecting these onto them. Nothing of the sort, because these interviewers didn't even know that these ladies thought that they had scars on their face. They were just being normal in the interview. But that goes to show the power of the mind, does it not? The power of the mind. When you tell yourself these things, when you fill yourself with negative thoughts about yourself, when you fill your mind with negative stories and you believe these to be true, and you then go on to search for the evidence for this to actually be true, that is powerful in such a negative way for your life, right? This is going to keep you so stuck. So they thought that there was this level of discrimination because they had facial disfiguration, when they actually didn't even have facial disfiguration, right? So it's sad. It saddens me how much we project our own negative thoughts, our own stories, our own beliefs onto others to search for evidence that it can actually be true, right? And I want you to start thinking, like, where is this happening in your life? Where are you putting on or projecting onto others the negative thoughts, the negative stories? Is it actually true? Because whether you believe it to be true, then it's going to be true. If you don't, then it's not, and you're going to search for evidence. I want you to see, I want you to observe the thoughts, the negative self-talk that you could potentially be projecting. And then I want you to actually do something. I want you to challenge yourself to go into a conversation. Maybe it is a job interview. Maybe it's a conversation with a friend. Maybe it's a conversation with someone that you think is superior to you, whatever. I want you to go into that conversation and challenge yourself to search for the evidence where it is not true. And I want you to consciously think of what you are projecting and stop. I want you to project on confidence. I want you to project on self-belief, because then you will start to seek and find the evidence and the proof that that is true. Therefore, you have already rewritten that belief, and you don't have to let that belief that is a limiting belief limit you anymore. Now, I have one more story as an example, and this is my own story. When Nate and I were first together, he wanted to shout us a trip to like a really fancy, expensive place that's up in the Kruger National Park when we went to South Africa. And so there's kind of a bad story in this, but it's fine. It's whatever. It was dysregulating for me. But there was a sale on, because this was kind of just towards the end of COVID times, and where it was like trying to encourage South Africans to travel within their own country, because that is how the money is going to keep circulating and whatnot. So this place was expensive, let me tell you that, but it made it better. It made it okay and made it doable for us to go if I was South African. So we pretended that I was South African. When we just signed up, we just said, yeah, both South African. So we got that sale. I know, don't at me, don't hate me, whatever. I'm sure you've done something like this before. I will never do it again. It almost reminded me of, being on a super yacht. It's like the type of service that we give to our boss and our owners. That's kind of the service that we got. So we went in, we were checking in and everything, and I kept my glasses on and I kept my mask on, and I was freaking out. I was like, this person knows I'm not South African. I'm not even going to speak. She knows that I don't even look South African. And I was projecting all of this onto her. Trust me, like I was freaking out. I was sitting here like I couldn't breathe properly. My energy was so off. She was staring at me, right? She was staring at me like in my mind, I'm like, see, she knows. That is the evidence. She knows that I'm not South African. She knows that I'm trying to get this discount. So I was projecting all of these beliefs onto her. She didn't know. She was looking at me like, why the fuck are you being so weird? She actually didn't know. And, we got away with it. I don't love this story and I'm not proud of this story, but it just goes to show the projections that we have on other people. She was looking at me and I was using that as evidence that she knows. It's my belief that she knows that I'm in the wrong, because I guess I was, but she knows about it. And she's now judging me, and she thinks I'm a bad person and all of these things because I had these beliefs, and then it was just cementing those beliefs, right? So that was like an incredibly dysregulating time for me. Like I say, both Nate and I were like, oh, we will never ever do that again, because that was so hard. But putting that part aside, I was projecting through my energy 100%, through my behaviors. You should have seen when I was signing this thing, I couldn't even sign it because I was shaking so much. Look, how is that for body language? How is that for behaviors? I wasn't speaking because I didn't have a South African accent. So like, it wasn't even through my conversation or my words or my language, or, it was my mood. You could see that I was being really, really weird. And it was showing to her. Like I say, I'm not proud of that story, but I wanted to bring that story up because it was something that came up for me, the way that we project our fears, our beliefs and everything onto other people, and how we are searching for evidence for it to be true. So if you take anything away from this, it's just to observe where you are projecting any sort of negativity onto others, and just challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to look for evidence of the opposite, so that that's easy for you to rewrite. That is one way that we're going to be able to rewrite our beliefs, is that we actually know it to be true. Because it's one thing to just say, I don't believe it to be true. No, it's not true. And you do. You fucking do. You fucking believe it to be true, right? But it's like when we actually find the evidence, and in our own hearts and in our own minds, we know that it's not true because we've found the evidence that of the opposite, we can now start having this as a new empowered belief. So that is it for the podcast episode today. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, especially if you are in my podcast family, my podcast community, please go and give your thoughts and ideas, just as we have been doing. And if you are not in my podcast community, I will leave the link in the show notes below. You definitely do not want to miss out on this opportunity of connecting with other like-minded people, having your say in the podcast, and just, being part of it. So I hope to see you over there, and I will see you all next week.